Hello and welcome to Micro Live. Most of this week's programme is a special report on the impact of IBM on the personal computer market and the high risks other computer manufacturers are taking competing with them. But before that, here's someone who's interested in games on the spectrum.
It's called Tightrope, and one of the friends has been captured by the threaded thread, and it's got little numbers and letters on it, and you've got to press the letters, but you've got to do it in a certain number of time, and if you run out of time, it isn't free.
Hello, Madeline. Can I take your pulse, please?
Madeline is in the Bristol ward of the Charing Cross Hospital in London. She came in a few days previously in a diabetic coma.
That's fine, Madeline.
Computer games help to pass the time if children are feeling better but have to stay in bed, or like Julian, restricted to a wheelchair. Here, games are not time wasters, but pleasant medicine.
Well, I personally don't like them, but for children in hospitals, such as Julian, who you saw with the 2 plasters on his legs, he can't run around with the other children, and therefore computers would be good to keep him occupied during the day.
So if you have a micro or some software that isn't being used anymore, why not give your local hospital a call and see if they would like it for the children's ward? Tonight on BBC One, children are benefiting in another way by donations of hard cash. A lot of money is being raised for a good cause, the Children in Need appeal. Leslie Judd is with them for the evening, and she's expecting to get a message from Micro Live via electronic mail. So here goes. Hello, Leslie, that's the message. Please tell viewers they can pledge their money on Telecom Gold. Just type children. The Micro Live electronic bulletin board is also taking pledges now, and all weekend on 01579 2288. Best wishes, Mac and the Micro Live team. So we'll send that, .s, and off it goes, and Leslie should be receiving it right now. Well, if you do manage to contact our board during the programme, we'll read out your pledge at the end of the show. Now, you may recall a few weeks ago we reported on how Apricot shares had taken a tumble following a story in the Sunday Times, which claimed that the company had only 3% of the business market. Well, this is an advanced copy of a report out next week. It's a detailed survey of microcomputer sales through dealers over the past 3 months. It shows Apricot has an 18.7% share of the British business market, roughly what the company claims. Probably the most significant trend is the march of IBM and IBM compatibles. Last quarter, it was estimated they had 58% of the British market, as against 45% in the first quarter. So it's clear from these up-to-the-minute figures that IBM is doing what observers have always predicted. It's slowly but inexorably taking over the PC market. Professor Martin Healy designed a personal computer in 1980 that he claims is a world beater. Fired with enthusiasm, he and a group of friends set up a factory in Silicon Glen in Scotland and called themselves Future Technology Systems. FTS produces several versions of its machines for different companies. Compared to their rivals, all are fast, have enormous memory, and can run several programs at once. It's estimated that there will be a $350 billion market for business machines by 1990, and no machine as advanced as FTS's should get left on the shelf. But the day that we filmed at FTS, there was only one person assembling machines, and in August of 1985, FTS drastically cut their workforce. Why didn't this thoroughbred British machine find itself a slot on the world market? However British your computer may be, when it comes to selling it, you face one large problem. You'll find yourself in competition with a company that since 1980 has taken a third of the world market in personal computers. It dominates the business market, and its market valuation is larger than any other company in the world, a staggering $80,000 million. It is, of course, the monarch of Silicon Glen is IBM's £200 million plant outside Glasgow. From here, IBM, known as Big Blue to the computer professional, supplies Europe with personal computers. IBM didn't drop into the small computer market until 1980, although it's been making mainframes since 1946. But when it arrived, it used all of its selling skills to get the market taped. IBM introduced a basic machine, the PC, which sells for about £2,400. The XT, which has a much larger storage system, for £3,600, and the AT, which uses a very advanced microprocessor and sells for £4,100. It's important for IBM that the PC doesn't undermine sales of the display writer, IBM's antiquated but profitable word processor, and that the AT doesn't compete with the Desktop 36, which is a clever mini-computer capable of running several programs at once. The IBM PC works surprisingly slowly. It has a low-resolution screen, and it hasn't even got a shift lock on its keyboard. The AT has not yet been given a piece of IBM software that would allow it to run several programs at once, like the Desktop 36 can. Martin Healy claims that his machine can do everything that the PC, the XT, the display writer and the AT can do today for just £3,000. So why does IBM bother to have a product range?
It's important that clearly you are developing your product line, you're improving the product line, and you're keeping pace with the needs of the end user. There's little point in going faster than the needs of the end user.
But how has IBM captured a third of the market with such an uneasy collection of hardware on offer? It's because it dispels two major fears of the corporate buyer. The first is stability. Which computer company will still be around in 10 years' time?
IBM. I'm not certain of anybody else, to be honest.
The second is software. How many programs are there that run on the IBM machine? There are over 5,000 software packages available for the IBM PC. Everything from flight simulators to a pet cemetery management program. Every month, 100 or more will appear, and just as likely, 100 will equally disappear. The catch-22 for IBM's competitors is that the software writers write programs for the most popular micros. But to be the most popular micro means having the most software available.
Our position at the time that we announced the PC back in the very early 80s was that we were keen to gain fairly quick acceptance in the marketplace. We knew that whatever product we announced would only satisfy part of the requirements of the mass of end users to whom we were trying to make our product attractive. And so we really needed to have third parties, independent organizations that were producing equipment, be it hardware or software packages, that would enhance our product and make it attractive to a much wider audience. And the best way to do that, in our opinion, was to come out with an open architecture, and that's exactly what we did.
Open architecture is an idea that used to be totally foreign to IBM's thinking. It means openly publishing all the specifications of the design of a computer, which IBM has done for the PC. Something that IBM's founder, Tom Watson, would never have dreamt of doing with his early mainframes. The EEC in Brussels would be delighted if IBM disclosed information about their large machines as vigorously as they volunteered information about their personal computers. They were so concerned about the secrecy that still surrounds IBM's mainframes that in 1984 they made them sign an undertaking to give more information away to their competitors. But IBM's actions in allowing open access to the PC design is not as altruistic as you might think. It means that IBM can produce a bog-standard machine very cheaply, which other manufacturers can adapt to more specialist uses with their own circuit boards. This tactic has changed the microcomputer market beyond recognition, as rival manufacturers have copied IBM's specifications in their own machines in order to run all the software written for the IBM PC. This has produced a host of computers which try to imitate the IBM range, known as compatibles. There are currently about 40 of them, and that means that 70% of the market now marches to IBM's tune.
Well, open architecture is extremely liberating, but IBM haven't achieved an open architecture. They've offered a de facto standard, and it's a standard to an incredibly low level.
Well, I don't think it's a question of standards. I think it's a question that we have chosen an architecture that we felt that we wanted to encourage companies to make investments within their product line that was compatible with our equipment, that would enhance our equipment, that would add function and capability to our equipment. And that's exactly what we did. I mean, that seems to me to be a sound commercial decision.
The paradox of FTS's position is that their machines are carefully checked for complete IBM compatibility before they leave the factory. Unless they adopt the standards Martin Healy so despises, they cannot run IBM software.
The IBM PC's existence has created an awful lot of applications programs, very good ones, and we just simply want to be able to utilise those programs. We're not the slightest bit keen on rewriting a spreadsheet or a word processor. We just simply want to use the industry standard ones. But it's the way of running those applications programs that I'm objecting to, and the fact that they are totally hardware dependent. We're having to, for example, we have to reduce the resolution of our display systems in half just to match the low resolution of the IBM displays.
If I can give you an analogy, it's a little like looking at the motor car industry, because if you talked about leading edge technology in the motor car industry, you'd be talking about Formula One racing cars. But the kind of car that you have down in your car park, that you buy, the mass-produced car, doesn't incorporate, at least at this point in time, some of the technologies which are available in the racing car.
Martin Healy's problem is very simple. If he follows IBM standards too closely, he believes he compromises his own. But in following his own, he's so far ahead of the IBM compatible market that he's out in the technological wilderness. So slaving away in your workshop with a bright idea for a new computer won't automatically make you a fortune. A computer designer must think about the market and the way to squeeze into a gap in it, and a gap that isn't already filled by Big Blue. Well, that's very difficult now because every manufacturer is trying to do the same thing and being presented with the same decisions when they come to design their own machine. First of all, they have to select a central processing unit, the engine of the computer. The most common micros use one of three processor manufacturers. Zilog, they make or they design the chips for the Sinclair ZX80, 81 and the Spectrum, for the MSX range and also for Amstrad. Motorola make the chips, and that is a chip from a Macintosh. They also make chips for the QL, the Sinclair QL, and the Commodore Amiga. And Intel make the chips for the Apricot, for the Olivetti M24, and of course the IBM PC range. But you need more than just an Intel processor to be IBM compatible. You have to run the same operating system. Let's have a look at what an operating system is. Well, here's our computer. The operating system is a set of programs which run on the machine almost like a shell to enable applications like word processing, graphics, spreadsheet, database, payroll and so on to run. The operating system handles files on the disk and the internal organization of the machine. Generally speaking, a payroll program written under one operating system won't work on a different one. In the Motorola family, all these machines have different operating systems. So even though they use the same processor, they're all incompatible with each other, let alone with IBM. All these machines in the Intel family have the same Intel chip and Microsoft operating system in common. So you'd think there'd be no problem. Well, there is. This is an IBM PC. And here is a Taiwanese compatible for about a third the price. And there's the Olivetti M24 with much more power for about the same price as the PC. You can see how they're actually trying to compete with IBM in its marketplace. But how compatible are they really? Naively, you'd imagine you could take two programs running together on an IBM PC here and they'd run on the other two. Well, we've got one running here. It's running quite well on the IBM PC. On this machine, the Taiwanese machine, immediately we hit fatal error, error 70, insert disk with /command, etc. on the first screen. With the Olivetti, we didn't even get that far. We hit sector not found, error reading, drive B, abort, retry, ignore. Well, I'm joined by Jack Schofield, the computer editor of The Guardian. Jack, all these machines in the Intel family claim to be compatible with IBM PC, but it's not quite as simple as that, is it?
No, it never is. It is a fact that most IBM compatibles will run most software, but unfortunately, the IBM standard isn't written down. It's a moving target. Sorry. You'll find that IBM has produced 3 versions of its disk operating system. It's issued at least 3 versions of the IBM PC, and there are 5 different machines in the IBM PC family. In fact, the situation has become so complicated that IBM has published a book of its software, and you can see from the ticks and crosses that are next to the programs, the ticks are programs that will run, the crosses are programs that won't. So even if you have an IBM PC, there's no guarantee that a particular program will run. In fact, the only way to be sure is to try it.
So IBM selected the operating system, it selected the chip, and because of IBM's marketing power, it became almost a standard, a de facto standard, it's called early on, by chance. Is that a good thing for the industry?
Well, it's been very good for the industry because it stimulated the enormous growth of software that we've seen over the last few years. Most of it very good.
Now, IBM isn't completely invincible. They have made quite a number of mistakes. The PC Junior was a complete flop. The portable machine, well, Compaq got in first, and they really never got off the ground with their machine. Compaq killed them. And as we've seen, their range of machines are incompatible with each other, and we're not sure whether that's by design or by accident. What about the future? If they choose a chip and they choose an operating system for the future, is that going to be a standard?
Well, I don't know. It's going to be the market that decides. The fact is that the IBM PC is now out of date, and whether they can adapt it faster than somebody else can come in with a new design, like for instance the Motorola 68000 can address 16 megabytes of RAM, which is far more than the IBM PC's 640K limit, which is limited by DOS. So,
tell me what you expect out of a new operating system that might become a standard in the future.
well, I think that what we need in the future is a multitasking operating system.
That means being able to run more than one program at the same time.
Yes, and this is the big advantage of having the extra memory. The IBM PC was a single-user standard, and I think that perhaps its day may have gone.
So as a multi-user standard, you mean, again, more people being able to use the same machine, rather like their System 36. Wouldn't that compete with the System 36?
Well, it might, but the fact is that you can get a Motorola 68000 in a machine as cheap as the Atari 520, 512K of RAM, £750.
It sounds as if there's a lot of competition. Thank you very much, Jack. Well, we seem to have arrived at a standard, at least for a single-user business system, not by design, but by the marketing power of IBM. How have the other manufacturers been affected by this? IBM's success has left other manufacturers like Roger Foster rushing to get onto the IBM bandwagon. His business success depends on his Apricot computer being as compatible with the IBM PC as possible.
What you've got to remember is that it's all about industry standard software, and IBM, as we have with Apricot, we use an industry standard chip from Intel and an operating system from Microsoft, and it's around that the architecture of all these major personal computers is built around those two things, the chip and the operating system.
Foster wants potential buyers to grasp the idea that the Apricot will run most of the important software written for the IBM. But there are some problems. For example, his machine uses 3.5-inch discs, and only on his latest does he offer the IBM-compatible 5.25-inch discs.
I think almost now, throughout the industry, it's accepted that 3.5-inch technology is superior to 5.25. The packing density is greater, the quality and reliability is far greater, and pretty well everybody would accept that that's the way the industry is going. So I think you'll find that IBM themselves will join the 3.5-inch game within the next few months.
Close as it is to the present IBM standard, it's frustrating for Apricot users that there may be a long delay before good IBM-compatible software will work on the Apricot. But making a computer that's 100% IBM-compatible could run into problems with IBM's legal department.
The question of compatibility is something that one can easily design into a machine without in any way infringing an IBM copyright. Now, I'd like to add that in those cases where a manufacturer has infringed our copyright, then we've acted firmly on that.
This leaves Roger Foster both trying to be as blue as IBM and never quite managing it.
Now, I would say the bulk of IBM's software will also run on Apricot. Certain software does require to be tweaked, if you like, to show off the various features of our machine. The Apricot has got a lot of features that the IBM hasn't.
Because it's really a balance, isn't it? If your machine is successful, software writers want to put it on your machine. If the software is successful, you want to get that software on your machine because that will help sell your machines.
Exactly. It is a chicken and egg situation, and it's that reason that it'd be very difficult for somebody to now enter the market because he couldn't create that momentum.
Personal computers sell for the range and quality of the software that work on them. This particular program was written by Lotus for the IBM PC and called Symphony. Well, the Apple Macintosh is quite different to the IBM PC. It uses completely different chips. In other words, in the industry jargon, it's incompatible. So Lotus had to rewrite Symphony, and they even gave it a completely different name. They called it Jazz. In today's market, you have to be very courageous to be as different from the IBM PC as the Macintosh is. Jazz took a year to convert from an IBM version to one that would run on the Mac. That year, if a Mac owner wanted to run Lotus's best-selling package, he was out in the cold. But the Mac's makers believe they have the right approach.
It's that we have a different style, we have a different heritage. We are not a traditional, well-managed computer company. We are something new that creates new markets, new applications.
1984. Apple is about to revolutionize the world of personal computers.
Apple's advertising ridicules the well-managed companies that play the look-alike game.
Where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. One will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves.
Apple have always been innovators and hope that their bright ideas will shatter the image of IBM in the eyes of the overcautious buyer.
Discover why, for you, 1984 won't be like 1984.
It's hard to believe that even the most caring computer user worries that Microsoft wrote the software and that IBM made the machine. But for Europeans, the debate is very important. For 10 years now, we in Europe have been falling behind in the race to produce a surplus in high technology. Unlike the Americans, who sell more than they buy, and very unlike the Japanese, who have even the Americans worried. An important strategy to get Europe firmly established in the personal computer market is being drawn up in a small town in Italy. Because Ivrea is Olivetti's town. Even the hotel is in the shape of their traditional product, a typewriter. In 1978, Olivetti took a crucial decision. They realized the only way to stay in office equipment was to produce personal computers. With clever marketing, this turned an ailing Italian typewriter company into one of the fastest growing concerns in Europe, last year making £250 million profit. El Sereno Piol is head of corporate strategy at Olivetti. From his office in Ivrea, he masterminds the battle against IBM.
Every time we are competing with IBM, we target one of our products against the IBM product. We are trying to see what we can offer to our customer more than IBM. Sometimes it can be a speed, sometimes it can be something else.
To keep pace with Big Blue, Olivetti spent £50 million last year on automation. Robots keep productivity up and the cost of making each computer down. For in a market where IBM is calling the tune, the only way to survive is to keep your productivity as high and your costs as low as IBM's. Olivetti has increased its production six-fold in this factory in the last 3 months. They keep parts assembly almost entirely in their own hands, fully aware of the problems that IBM has had with outside suppliers. But above all, the fight against IBM's domination is a battle of the standards. And Olivetti's first move in that game has been to make its machines IBM compatible.
If you have the standard, you must follow the standard. You must try to utilize the software available by different software houses. From the other side, you cannot sleep on present standard, but you must try to push for new standard, because if one day they are an alternative to the present standard, this alternative should be not guided by IBM, it should be guided by the industry.
Olivetti's strategy is to capture a sizable share of IBM's own market, using IBM's standard, and then to promote another that's firmly under Olivetti's control. This involves exploiting a shortcoming of Microsoft's operating system, that it's only capable of running one program at a time. Olivetti are pushing an operating system called Unix that allows several programs to be run at once. To this end, Signor Piol, like a modern Machiavelli, has been creating alliances.
For instance, in the case of Unix, the standard is supported today in Europe by a group of the major European computer manufacturers. They are ICL, Nixtor, Siemens, Bull, and ourselves. In the case of the standard for education, there are three major companies like Thomson, Econ, and Olivetti pushing for the new standard.
The most important alliance Signor Piol has made is with IBM's great US rival, AT&T, who developed the Unix operating system and own 25% of Olivetti. Together they make a big enough mass to take on IBM and survive.
It's like in the personal computer, it's like in many other industries, in which basically the car industry or refrigerator industry, in which basically the people that can play the game are going to remain very few. By sure, we are going to have IBM. By sure we will be there. Some Japanese, even it's difficult, to understand what the Japanese are going to do in this area, but some Japanese are going to be on the market. And after this name, the question is very open.
The battle for the soul of the personal computer is a conflict in which raising and following a standard is the key to victory. It's a battle in which IBM can afford to rest on its laurels. But while other manufacturers publicly crowd to IBM's standard, privately they survey the consequences.
It was very difficult when we did it 3 years ago. Today it would be impossible, almost impossible for anybody to get into this business.
Nobody will come and beat a path to our door. It's fair to note that people only beat paths to IBM's door. It's as simple-minded as that.
And as a consequence, many of the companies who are with us today will be gone tomorrow, except one. Well, earlier we sent a message to Leslie on Children in Need programme on BBC One, and here's her reply. It's from Children in Need, subject, reply, message from MicroLive, read. Come on, Leslie, there it is. Message gratefully received by all at Milton Keynes. Steady flow of pledges coming in. Excuse the syntax, still think I'm sending telegrams. Love, Leslie. Well, she'll be back here next week explaining how micros send messages to each other. Back in the Micro Live office, our bulletin board has been very busy, and here's some of our pledges. Ian Sanderson from Portsmouth, Chris Knowles from Manchester, and Neil Gaddo from Aberdeen. And we're keeping it all through the weekend, of course, and you can pledge on Telecom Gold. Now, if you use Micronet 800 on Prestel, the celebrity chat line is open. And we have Colin Baker here with us. Colin,
hello,
thank
Ian.
you for coming along. Have you got anything like a chat line on the TARDIS?
No, no chat lines on the TARDIS.
Nothing at all. Are you looking forward to this chat line that we've got
Yes,
here?
it's a novelty for me. I've never experienced anything like it before.
What sort of questions do you imagine they're going to ask you?
I honestly don't know, because I'm used to the questions that Doctor Who fans ask. But what Prestel people will ask, I've no idea.
Do you think it'll raise plenty of money for the children in need?
That is my sincere hope.
Yes.
That's why I'm here.
Let's hope lots and lots of people actually come on and chat you, and you manage to chat them into parting with some of their ill-gotten gains.
I shall do my best.
Thank you for coming on the show, Colin.
Pleasure.
Well, thank you for your contributions so far, and we hope there's lots more to come. Once again, thank you for your help, and that's all from us here. Good night.
Good night.